What's your best "what are the odds" moment? Story 1. My grandfather always tells this story of how when my mother and her brothers were young, he had planned for them all to go on a family holiday to the beach, including my grandmother. They told the kids about it, and because they weren't doing so well financially, they had incorporated it into Christmas because Santa hadn't brought much. Mom and her brothers were all so excited to go to the beach. As the holiday got closer, even though my pop had been working overtime for months, as had my nan, it was clear they weren't going to have enough money. They decided they couldn't do that to the kids, so after consideration, they decided to just go, to leave their house repayments and multiple bills unpaid and take what they could. While they were on holiday, they went to the beach. When my pop got out of the water first, he put his clothes on and waited for the others. It wasn't until they got home he realized he had put someone else's shorts on. He went back down to the beach to find the owner and to get his own pants back because he had a small amount of money in his pockets. Of course, the owner was nowhere to be seen. It was at this time that he checked the pockets of the shorts he had on to see if there was any ID. There wasn't, but there was a scrunched-up tab ticket for a horse named Mystic Marie. He found that odd because my grandmother's name is Marie. So on his way down to the shops that night to buy fish and chips for dinner, he stopped at the pub to have a quick beer and remembered the ticket. He says to this day he doesn't know why he didn't just throw it away, but he decided to check and see if it had won. It had, and he had won $2 million, more than enough to cover or is that $2,000 from back in the day? More than enough to cover their holiday and pay the bills and do some extra activities with the kids as well. He said he had never had that much luck again. It's his favorite story. Still to this day, every time he tells it, you can tell that he still can't quite believe it. He always says, and to think that I was worried that I had lost $5 when I lost my own shorts. Story 2. I was staying around a friend's place for a week to get away from my parents. He had this toy slot machine thing that would decide to randomly go off with this ding-diddling, ding-diddling, ding-diddling thingy unprompted every 10 minutes. It began to tick us off very quickly. After a while, we decided to take the slot machine out into the woods around the back of his house and show it some manners. So, armed with the slot machine that didn't know when to shut up, some deodorant and a cigarette lighter, we snuck out into the woods in the dark of the night. Once we got as deep as we could, it wasn't a particularly big wooded area, and it was basically right next to a house. We took the lid off of a can of deodorant, shoved it into the part of the machine that money comes out of, and lit the plastic tip at the top of the can. It was at this moment that the slot machine started its freaking infuriating ringing again. It obviously had caught on to our plans, and was doing whatever a slot machine's version of crying for help is. Somebody must have heard as the nearest house's kitchen light turned on, and a woman began glaring at us from behind the glass. So we decided to get the frick out of there and just leave the machine behind. As we were walking, a faint pop rang out from behind us. Must have been the deodorant, we thought. That was a little bit underwhelming. All of a sudden, in the distance, the slot machine starts ringing again. Just as the final ding-diddling rang through the air, a huge bang hit our ears. It scared the crap out of us, and we stood for a moment in shock. As we stood, an ever so slightly messed up deodorant can fell from the sky and landed directly in front of our feet. We were a good 30 to 40 meters from the scene of the crime. The slot machine didn't make it. Story 3. It was a mild and drab late afternoon in Innsbruck, with my brother and a few mates in a bar around the old town having a few beers and casually watching the Boxing Day soccer match between Newcastle and Manchester United. Sipping on my beer, I looked up at the score and then to my brother and said, "Newcastle will score in the 68th minute." To which he replied, "Ha, get boned. If this is a live match, then I bet you they won't." So when the next round of beers came from the bar, we were assured by the keep that it was in fact live, and the wager was set. If there were not to score in the 68th minute, I would have to buy him a kebab later tonight. However, if they were to score in the 68th minute, and because the odds are so greatly against me, he would have to pay our bar tab for the table, buy me drinks for the continuation of the night, and a kebab. This bet was made at like the 5th minute. The game was live. Kept watching, smoked some shisha, generally just hanging cool for almost an hour. When it got to the 66th minute, Newcastle hadn't looked like scoring all game. Wasn't really watching it, but they were down by heaps. So my brother started getting cocky, telling me what meat he wanted, garlic yogurt, cheese, which salads and sauces, etc. Then it breaks over into the 67th minute, and he's like, "Aw yeah, I'm getting a kebab, guys." That was the dumbest bet ever. And then suddenly, they get the ball, run the field to the goal, and score. I lose my crap. I was up on the table yelling stuff in his face. I could not believe what just happened. He was so unhappy, he kept asking the bartender if it was a live match, and it was. And there I was, screaming in his face. All our mates at the bar were in tears laughing at him, because less than a minute before, he was so cocky about it. Needless to say, more drinks were ordered, he paid for everything that night, and everyone got pretty loose. But I still bought him a kebab later on. Story 4. I was living in San Antonio a few years back for school, and a friend of mine that I met in College Station had moved to New Braunfels to be a mortician. I was out at lunch with a separate group of friends at a deli, and a guy approached me who was making balloon animals, or whatever, for some party company. They did all kinds of things for parties, like rentals for popcorn machines, or moon jumpers, clowns, party accessories like tablecloths, etc. He was really nice, and he gave me his business card. Anyway, flash forward to about a month later, and my friend from NB called me up, kind of upset. We met up at Olive Garden and started talking. She had embalmed this guy who had written all over his body in permanent marker who his best friends were, and his family, and quotes he thought were memorable. And she was upset because, by law, she wasn't allowed to tell anybody about the marker and stuff. She didn't even think the police really saw all of it. He had passed away of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest, and the weird thing to me was how meticulously planned out he had done it all. He made sure all his debts were paid, and rented a hotel, and wrote notes to everyone, and calmly called his family and friends on the phone to say goodbye. When I went to pay, I had the guy from the deli's business card in my wallet, and she saw it and exclaimed, "That's the guy." The chances are probably pretty astronomical that I ran into a random dude in a deli in a city of 1.3 million, and my friend in another city embalmed the same guy, and we both know each other, and etc., etc. The whole situation still boggles my mind. Story 5. I was driving down the highway. There are very few cars on the road. Mine, and 2 others that I can remember. Mr. Squirrel makes a terrible, life-changing decision. Squirrel is pretty far in front of me. It gets hit by one of the only 2 other cars I see on the road and skips across. By the grace of the 7 squirrel gods, it was okay. It took off in the other direction toward safety, immediately regretting, one would assume, its decision to cross the road in the first place. When an eagle, yes, a freaking eagle, swoops down out of nowhere and snags the little mustard. The eagle grabbed Mr. Squirrel and did a low-altitude flyover of the highway with it just to bust its balls. It skimmed the ground right in front of me, and I was inches from running it over. When the second car present with me on the highway immediately to my left, which was a Hyundai Tiburon, not sure why I remember that, takes them both out. Mercifully, I saw neither move again in my mirror after kissing the grill at 75 miles per hour. That's 120 kilometers per hour for you peens and nicks. The whole thing probably took 3 seconds, but it was 3 seconds of awesome. Story 6. Many years ago, when I was serving in the Air Force, we used to regularly pull pranks on each other. One of the most common ones involved using charged capacitors. You would either slip them into someone's pocket or simply throw them at someone and shout, "Catch!" When they caught it, they would get zapped, and much hilarity would ensue. I finished my shift in the Bay and left to go and see my then-girlfriend in Nottingham. I used to catch the train as it was easier than driving and trying to find a parking spot. As usual, the train was crowded, and I was standing alongside a group of other commuters when the guy beside me suddenly screamed and collapsed. Unbeknownst to me, one of my colleagues had slipped a charged capacitor into my coat pocket in the changing room at work and unwittingly foiled a would-be pickpocket who got the shock of his life when he tried to lift my wallet. This assertive pickpocketer should have heeded Plankton's advice and not tried to be so insertive. Beep beep. Story 7. Growing up, I had a friend who was adopted, and her family had adopted a boy from another family as well. This boy was half black and half Greek. I knew them all through my teen years. In my early 20s, I met up with my sister and one of her new friends. The girl had just moved here from across the country and was staying with her grandmother, while her mother worked in China for a year. Over dinner, we were talking, and somehow the conversation came up that she had an older brother that was given up for adoption in our province before she was born. I'm staring at her face and thinking how much she looks like my friend's brother. I asked her if she knew anything about him, and she said she knew he was half black and half Greek. I didn't know what to do, so I thought about it for a while and called my friend. At her urging, I mentioned it to my sister's friend. Fast forward 24 hours, we find out they are siblings, and Mom flies in from China to meet the child she gave up 20-plus years before. Story 8. In 5th grade, we used to do a lot of partner projects, and the teacher would usually let us pick partners. My best friend and I were in the same class and would always partner up together to do everything, and we made sure that we did the projects in the most ridiculous way possible. One day, my teacher decided she had enough of us working together, so she assigned everyone a number, wrote them on popsicle sticks, and was drawing sticks to choose partners. My friend and I are on the edge of our seats, and the teacher draws my number, then pulls out another stick, and it's my best friend's number. The teacher got mad at us celebrating and said that she's redrawing all of the sticks, only to draw us at partners again. We lose our crap, high-fiving and hugging and yelling. The teacher got super mad, gave up, and let everyone pick their partners. Story 9. I don't really talk about this much because it's one of those things that nobody will believe. My brother got kidnapped in Mexico in 2005 while I was on vacation with him. He's fine, that's a longer story. While he was being taken away, and I was hysterical, arguing with the kidnappers in a language that I could barely speak, a seal jumped up out of the water next to the dock, about 3 feet from us, with a huge bloody fish in its jaws, and a pelican swooped down and fought him for it. It was crazy and awe-inspiring. Both the kidnappers and I stopped arguing and just stared at this whole thing going down with our jaws agape. The seal won and sank below the clear blue water with its prize, leaving a trail of crimson in the water as it swam away. We looked at each other and said, "Whoa," and then started fighting for my brother again. Story 10. I have a friend who is so bad at throwing things, we say he has a gypsy curse on him. I've seen him try to dunk trash while standing next to a trash can and miss. I've never seen him throw anything and come anywhere near hitting his intended target. He can't shoot hoops, nothing. Except one time, we were at a strip club, and the stripper sticks a shot glass into her butthole and is taunting us to throw money into the glass. If you get it in, you get a free dance in VIP. We were all throwing crumpled up bills at her butthole, trying to get the free lap dance. Then my friend casually walks up, assesses the situation, crumples a 5, starts taking a drink from his beer, and while his head is tilted back and eyes are closed, makes the shot, and it goes right in. He was more excited when he made the shot than he was for the lap dance. Story 11. When we were younger, my brother and I were chipping golf balls up and down a football pitch to practice a little, and also out of boredom. About 10 meters away from the goal, my brother hit the ball, it bounced off the crossbar, and came back to hit him square in the forehead. I was about 12 or 13 at the time, and even then I knew the chance of hitting a spherical object off quite a small cylindrical object and bouncing back at that exact angle to hit him in the head was very, very low. Once it happened, I fell over laughing, then looked up to see his face and hands covered in blood. We found the golf ball later with a lump of his forehead on it. Story 12. I was playing the Wheel of Fortune on a casino riverboat. As the last bet of the night, I placed my last $5 chip out of $100 I started with on the 20-to-1 shot, figuring it would keep me from having to stand in line to get $5 while all my friends were waiting on me. Spin. The wheel gets stuck between my number and the next number next to it. The lady calls the pit boss over and is about to say it's on the 20 when he notices my bet on the table. "Spin it again," he says, looking me right in the eye. "Bets stay as they are." So I'm forced to leave my bet on the 20-to-1 shot again while she spins the wheel. Click, click, click. 20-to-1 pays out. No question about it this time. I walk out with all my money back and a smile on my face. Story 13. This one happened this last weekend. I had gone to the Portland Comic-Con just to get Bruce Campbell's autograph, as he's been my hero since Army of Darkness days. Well, I didn't get in line soon enough, and I was not able to get it. I was pretty bummed, so I figured I would take an angry poop. As I'm doing my number 2 business, I hear 2 people walk in. One says to the other, "Okay, stand here and wait in front of this stall, make sure nobody uses it. I'll go grab him and lead him here." At this point, I'm thinking, who could possibly be so important that they're reserving a stall for him? I figure, what the hell, I'll hang out for a little while longer and figure out who it is. When the person shows up and thanks the guy holding the stall for him, I know immediately that it is Bruce. So I gotta poop in the stall next to my childhood hero after not being able to meet him. Story 14. Before we met, my wife from Portland, Oregon, was backpacking in Europe. In Greece, she met a girl from Ireland who had gone to college in Boston. The Irish girl commented that my wife's mannerisms and voice reminded her of a girl, Karen, she knew from Boston. Turned out it was the same Karen that had been my wife's best friend when she lived in Portland, too. Okay, I see this is more confusing than it needed to be. Another try. Liz from Portland, my wife, was in Greece. She met a girl from Ireland, let's call her Fiona. Fiona said Liz's mannerisms and voice reminded her of another girl, Karen, that Fiona knew from college in Boston. The same Karen from Boston had actually gone to high school in Portland and was Liz's best friend. Rereading? Maybe I'm just not good at this. Story 15. Bored as crap when I was 12 or 13. Was practicing hitting golf balls with a golf club out of boredom. Decided I was done, but wanted to see how accurately I could hit the ball. Looked at the swing set nearby. Thought, I wonder if the odds are that I could hit that crossbar over the slide. Swung the club. Never have I had such clean contact. Watched the ball rocket forward, hit the bar dead on, then saw it coming back. Before I could react, it hit me between the eyes, right on the bridge of my nose. What are the freaking odds, I thought, as I rolled on the ground in pain. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.